Oh my god, are you serious?
A month after giving birth to my daughter, I came home from my parents. When my husband returned from work and saw me, he dropped his bag at the entrance and exclaimed,
Don't you look too different from before?
Excuse me? I'm Lisa, 31 years old. I was a housewife who had a baby a month before. I had stayed with my parents since giving birth and was very much looking forward to the new life with the three of us at home. When I finally returned, I was greeted with heartless comments from my husband Darren. I was absolutely stunned, wondering how he could say such things before even seeing his baby for the first time. We got married through an office romance. I worked in the accounting department after graduating from high school, and he was my boss at that time. We bought a house close to work. I was originally from across the country and had returned to be with my parents a little before my due date. A month after I delivered my daughter Carrie, I came back home with her. Darren was too busy with work to fly over for the delivery, so it was his first time meeting the baby. And yet, so very nice of you. I just had a long way back with the baby, and what a warm welcome. At first, I thought he was joking, so I sarcastically retorted. He returned out to be serious.
Well, you look like you put on 20 pounds.
It's normal to gain up to 35 pounds for childbirth. It's written in the maternity handbook. I have to be strong enough to give birth and produce milk. I'm also going to need a lot of energy to deal with a crying baby throughout the night. It's perfectly normal.
No kidding. That is outrageous.
During my flight, I excitedly imagined many words of welcome from him, including,
I've been waiting for you guys. I missed you so much. Let me hold my daughter.
Instead, he left me with the most unexpected comment without even holding the baby, and locked himself in the bedroom in dismay. I was shocked and hurt hearing his unpleasant remarks and seeing his mocking attitude and his withdrawal from disappointment. I dropped the diaper bag just as he did with his bag. I was hopeful that his mood was going to improve after a night's sleep and went to bed in the spare bedroom with Carrie. The next day, I came to realize that his behavior the night before was just the beginning. Soon, the excessive mocking of my weight began. I had learned at the breastfeeding class that sweet potatoes increased breast milk supply. When he saw me eating them as a snack,
What a potato doing eating a sweet potato?
It's cannibalism.
Oh wow, it's gross seeing fat people eat. I heard that pigs eat grains. You need to eat more grains. Oink.
He had fun ridiculing me. Moreover,
I've been patiently waiting for, our nights again. As a healthy guy, I expected to get right back to it. But you know what? I don't think that's possible. It's going to be like work even if I want to do it. It was a business. I'd get paid. This doesn't accrue wages. It's the equivalent of illicit unpaid overwork.
as an accountant, he impressively converted his sex life into wages.
We need to take cost-cutting measures. We are not going to have sex for the sake of business efficiency. The reason is due to a change in management policy that you no longer look like a woman.
He went on making fun of me. Whenever he opened his mouth, some cruel remarks about my body came out. I never heard anything else coming out of his mouth anymore. He didn't even participate in housework or childcare. I was happy just being with Carrie though. I didn't have to listen to anything he said. I tried to think of him as a noisy parrot in the house and didn't let him bother me so much. Then, something happened that drove me through the roof. That was the day Darren came home drunk from his work event. He sat on a chair and bent over the table in the living room. His face was looking toward me, who was breastfeeding Carrie next to him. He let out a booze-sensed burp and started to say something incoherent with his slurred speech.
I'm thinking, babies aren't as cute as they seem. She's kind of bald, and her skin is reddish, and she can only make weird sounds.
What are you talking about?
I'm sure people are just saying they are cute, but they don't really think so. I'm an honest guy. An accountant must have an analytical view of the business.
You're making no sense.
So, I see you feeding a not-so-pretty thing. And I know that you gained weight to produce the not-so-pretty thing. And then your boobs will sag from being sucked, right? It's disgusting. I mean, look at your upper belly and lower belly. You're like a roly-poly bug.
What the hell?
I can't see you as anything else but that. Oh my god, I'm freaking out now. I can't have sex with a roly-poly. That's like mating with a different species.
He suddenly pulled my hand and dragged me with the baby into the spare bedroom. What the hell do you think you're doing? I resisted, but before I had time to scream, he pushed us into the room and shut the door.
Seriously, roly-poly? You stay in the nest.
He then went on to sing none other than Roly-Poly as he went to take a shower. Unforgivable. He mocked not only me, but his daughter too. Even though he was drunk, it was way out of line. I felt homicidal, but I nursed my baby in the dark room and went to bed. When I opened the door the next morning, my anger reached a boiling point immediately. It wasn't because Darren's clothes were strewn about on the path to the bathroom, or the used glass was left behind on the table. I saw a paper taped on the door of the bedroom I was shoved into. It said, Roly-Poly's room. It was illegible handwriting in magic marker, but it was for sure Darren's. I swore to God that I was not going to forgive him for that. I began to plot my retaliation against him right there, right then. The first step was to reinvent myself. Firstly, I put the Roly-Poly's room sign in my new bedroom. I was going to look at it whenever I felt like giving up. On the opposite wall, I put up a poster of Jennifer Lopez. I had always been a fan of hers. She had a great style and made me want to be like her. It was perfect to keep my motivation up. Thus began my long-term revenge project in the Roly-Poly's room. There were plenty of workouts I could do at home. I basically stood on my toes to move around inside the house. Whenever I wanted to sit down, I did wall sits. I did squats while doing laundry and brushing my teeth, and crunches after each feeding. My midwife told me that the postpartum body had softer fat, which was easier to burn off. She was right, and my weight went down in no time. When Carrie got a little older, I put her on my stomach during my sit-ups, and she cackled every time my face came near her. I worked on my strength training and diet while taking care of her. Before I knew it, I was back to my pre-baby shape. I sweat a lot while training, so I kept the same tracksuits I wore right after childbirth, and only changed the elastic waistband. I didn't need to dress up in front of Darren, and of course, I didn't bother with makeup either. He had nicknamed me Roly-Poly, and didn't even notice my changes because my clothes stayed the same. He paid no attention to me anyway. The second step was to deteriorate the husband. If I was to rise, I had to lower my rival relative to myself. I was on a mission to fatten up Darren. His office didn't have a cafeteria, so I prepared a high-calorie lunchbox with meat and fried food. As for dinner, he normally returned around 9 p.m., and I tempted him with his favorite food like pizza and fried chicken. I had my dinner with Carrie at 6 p.m. My meals consisted of 70% vegetables and 30% meat. I tried my best to minimize my carb intake and substituted with cauliflowers and tofu instead. It reduced the stress of not having rice or bread. If I felt hungry, I held out for 10 minutes and hunger went away. If it persisted, I looked at myself in the mirror and then looked at the poster of J-Lo. The hunger turned into guilt, so I was about to suppress my appetite. Of course, I knew that it wasn't enough to keep me going, so I started twittering. I just took a picture of my bare belly every day before I showered. I posted a picture and the exercises I did under the handle name Lisa at Home Diet. 4 years had passed since then, and Carrie started preschool. Darren started to give more attention to her once she was able to speak. However, I had no intention to forget and move on after he had upset me so much. I could no longer forgive him for what he said to me when I gave birth. In addition, I had been able to keep the voltage of my anger for that long, since my nickname had been established as Roly Poly by him. When Carrie started preschool, I started working part-time at a local fitness club. I was only a receptionist and a cleaner, but since the clients were very conscious about their health and beauty, my own sense was further heightened. It was even more motivating for me whenever the clients told me, "You look great! You're so toned!" I was convinced that I reached the level I had been aiming for at last. Well, it was about time. I decided that I was going to get back at Darren for the past 4 years. I set up a meeting on one Tuesday at 1 p.m. The location was a cafe his parents ran in the center of the city. Thanks to being featured by influencers, it was always crowded. They hadn't seen Carrie since she was a baby, so I decided to bring her there. I was told that Tuesday afternoons were relatively slow, and it was easier for them to take a break. They planned to leave the cafe to their staff and enjoy the time with Carrie for the first time in a while. Darren had to work in the morning, but took the afternoon off to meet us there. After I sent him off, I carefully put on my makeup and ironed my hair. It was always tied in a messy knot at home, but when I put in an effort, it became shiny and straight. My normally non-existing eyebrows were drawn, and instead of a tracksuit, I put on a body-hugging dress. It was a size 6. I wasn't going to let him call me Roly-Poly anymore. I intentionally arrived at the cafe 10 minutes late. I had gotten a text from Darren saying he was already there.
"You're late. Roly-Poly is slow to move."
I saw an additional text at the entrance of the cafe. Snap. I took a screenshot and put my phone in my bag.
"Brace yourself."
I took one deep breath and rolled my shoulders back. The door made a clanging sound, and Carrie and I walked in. My mother-in-law Lori saw us first. "You are here." She smiled ear to ear. "Oh, how nice to see you, Lisa. I've missed you and you too, Carrie." "It's been a long time, Lori." I gave her a peck on the cheek. "Let's talk in the back today. Darren's already here." "Oh, aren't you just so adorable, sweet little bean?" She was more interested in playing with her granddaughter than serving customers. She turned to the staff and asked her to take charge. When I walked to the back and saw the back of Darren, he turned around hearing my footsteps.
"How long do you make me wait, Rolly?"
When he saw me, he froze in time. I had no idea that human eyes were capable of opening so wide. His nostrils also flared up so big, and his jaw dropped. I thought he could have been a Guinness World Champion in opening all the holes in his face. He stared at me in silence. "Hi, Darren." I greeted him in a deliberately distant manner. "Carrie looks so sweet and beautiful, just like you, Lisa." Lori joined us with 5 slices of tiramisu, which was a bestseller in the cafe. Silence ensued, so I spoke up. You seem to be at a loss for words.
Oh, well.
As he was flustering, my father-in-law Mark showed up.
I've been waiting for you guys. I've missed you, sweet little Carrie.
Surrounding her, the in-laws couldn't stop smiling, seeing how cute and cuddly she was. In contrast to them, Darren forced a tight smile.
Well, of course, she got our genes.
The battle was to begin. Without a moment's hesitation, I followed him with, Well, it's you and Roly-Poly's baby, right? He froze, and his parents stopped playing with Carrie. What did you just say? Lori was confused. Roly-Poly. That's what he has been calling me. He said he couldn't see me as a woman after the baby was born.
Wait a minute. I didn't know you lost weight.
You didn't notice, did you? You shoved me into the spare room, so you didn't have to look at me, right? And you didn't even see the changes. For the past 4 years, you've been calling me Roly-Poly and never even looked at me. You said I was disgusting. I took a piece of paper with Roly-Poly's room written on it out of my bag and put it on the table. My in-laws were stunned. Mark, Lori, I continued. I'm sure you can see what I have been dealing with just from this paper alone. I have been verbally abused by him for a long time. This is not the only evidence. I took out my phone. There were screenshots of all the horrible messages he had sent me. Of course, I showed the one I took upon my arrival too. His parents were taken aback by their sheer amount of them.
Darren, how could you?
Mark squeezed out his voice as if he was in pain.
Oh, give me a break. Evidence for what?
Darren shouted in rage. Then, we heard giggles from behind. Seriously? 2 teenage girls at the table nearby glanced at us and laughed. How can a creepy old man like that yell at a beautiful woman? So wrong. Crazy, creepy, fat, and hot-headed. It's a real quadruple handicap. Their laughter and conversation could be heard at our table. You call me Roly-Poly, but have you looked at yourself in the mirror? You're overweight and greasy. I paused for a moment and said in disgust, You look like a beetle. Having said all this, I turned to my in-laws and showed them a picture. Please have a look. That's Carrie right after she was born, and me. Oh, Carrie, you're so tiny here. How cute. I'm so happy to have you as my grandchild. Rolly looked at it and was in tears. When I came back after giving birth, he said that I was disgusting and had no appeal as a woman. On top of that, my breast and stomach are dropping, and he gave me the nickname of Roly-Poly. He also said that Carrie was not cute. My in-laws were speechless, so I took out a folder of divorce papers from my bag. I've just shown you the evidence of the abuse. I would like to end our marriage now.
Wait a minute. You are supposed to be the Roly-Poly that hangs on to me. How do you plan to make a living?
It was too much of an unexpected question, and my response was immediate. I switched screens on the phone I had just put out on the desk. Twitter, Lisa at Home Diet. I had over 10,000 followers. I showed this to the manager of the fitness club. He said he will hire me full-time. In my comment section, It's amazing that you can tone up that much at home. You give all the housewives hope. You look great. I admire you. There were compliments after another. Enough! Rolly suddenly shouted. Darren, you have no idea how hard it is for us to give birth. It's the hardest work that the human body can endure. The reason why we gain weight is to maintain our strength for the delivery. Mothers hardly sleep to protect their babies, too. You know nothing. You don't even try to understand that. And you make fun of her. I don't know how to apologize to her. Shame on you. Then she turned to me. Dear, I apologize on behalf of my stupid son. I will do whatever I can to make up for his mistakes. Tell me anything. So please let me continue to see this cute little being from time to time.
Well, since we are busy running our cafe, we won't bother you so often. It would be great if we could celebrate her birthdays here, of course without Darren.
Thus, I started working as a single mother at a fitness club. My friends say how pretty mommy is, Carrie tells me sometimes. I always respond to her, well, you have to work hard to be beautiful inside and outside. It's important to believe in yourself and be patient to achieve your goal. I hope you will grow up to be a diligent person. On the other hand, what has happened to the beetle, previously Darren? Lori tells me that he has hoped to get back together with me by going on a diet, but he hasn't been able to endure the food restriction. He's still a pump beetle. I'm working full-time at the fitness club now. My Twitter followers have exceeded 20,000. I have even been approached by a publisher. Housewives can achieve anything. We have to take our own happiness into our own hands. I would like to continue motivating all the housewives who are trying their best.